No. So yeah. Hey everybody, it's Katie from Brio Travel, where it's all about traveling with intention and connecting to the world. So for a really long time, I was absolutely married to Airbnb, and to say that I used it a lot is an understatement. In 2019, I had 14 different stays, totaling over 146 days. And that's not even accurate because some of them I worked with the owner direct. Sometimes I would extend my stay. My travels were heavily reliant on Airbnb. And I mean, for good reason. I had like really, really lovely stays. But what began as something that was connecting travelers and locals has kind of gotten a little out of control. So today we're going to talk about that and why I personally do not use Airbnbs anymore. If you don't already know, Airbnb is a booking platform that offers accommodation options that are an alternative to the traditional hotel. Guests can search using a wide variety of filters and like almost anywhere in the world. It has a massive inventory. And what it offers to travelers is beyond just not staying in a hotel, it has kitchens if you want to cook. It is in neighborhoods, and so it's not always, in the like bustling downtown area. It's really nice for long-term stays. And it's a really nice option if you have graduated from hostels but aren't ready or have no desire to stay in a hotel. There's so many different types to meet almost anybody's needs and varying price points, so you can almost always find exactly what you're looking for. In the past, I have made friends with the hosts, with fellow travelers, if I get like a private room and there's other travelers there as well. I've even had the mother of one of my hosts be kind enough to cook me a vegetarian version of one of the traditional dishes so I could try it without meat in it, which is like just so thoughtful and so sweet. Like everything, it's not always perfect. There are obviously some cons. Sometimes the photos are different than they seem online. Sometimes the host is unresponsive and uncommunicative, which can be a huge problem. Sometimes the directions aren't clear and check-in is really confusing because there's not a front desk. It's like a key box or whatever, and the apartments can be numbered totally differently in other countries, and it can be a little confusing. And those are like some small things that can go wrong. There are some other like wild horror stories out there that you can fall down a rabbit hole reading. There was one time the check-in directions were in Polish, and Airbnb doesn't let you copy from the app. And so I literally just had to go letter by letter, like a few at a time, back and forth between the apps, so in the like freezing cold. There was one time that I had a long-term stay. It was 2 months, and I was in a private room and the owner was in a separate room and with her dog as well. And she went out for the night and I found the dog not alive anymore. So I had to call her and she wasn't close by. So I was like, don't come home. Like I didn't like double check. And whatever, it was like a whole thing. And the whole scene still like haunts me to this day. Obviously like she had no control over that. That was not her fault or anyone's fault. And it is extremely tragic and traumatic for her to have lost a family pet. I do wish she had acknowledged like a little bit that had happened to me, but she was like processing, so it's fine. I'm over it. It's fine. Anyway, beyond the things that you can't predict, there are still things like there's nowhere to leave your luggage if you get there before check-in, and you have to check out before you're leaving town. That can be extremely inconvenient, especially if you have a lot of stuff and you have nowhere to go. There's no lobby to hang out in. There's, nothing like that. Also nice to just have 24 hours reception, especially in a country that you're not familiar with. First quarter of 2022, Airbnb reported over 100 million bookings in the first quarter, which is crazy. It has grown so much since its inception in 2007, I think it was. But it's driving up prices and it's pushing locals out of their communities and out of their neighborhoods. Rental agencies and foreigners come in, buy a bunch of properties and rent them out, and then those properties sit there empty or very rarely used during the low season. Meanwhile, housing prices are skyrocketing for everybody, and housing becomes harder and harder to find for locals. Owners can sometimes make more in a weekend than they do in a month from a local tenant, which is causing owners to raise prices, which forces the locals to move out because they can no longer afford it, and the landlords just live on a few weekend bookings per month or whatever they can get. Neighbors and apartment buildings have to deal with guests, you know, an influx of guests coming and going, new ones checking in, new ones checking out, which is also a safety issue for them, as well as potentially just like super obnoxious with noise and parties and stuff like that. Especially in cities that already suffer from all of the other infrastructure problems of over-tourism, it's just a lot for a city to support and maintain. And so what once was a good way to connect with the local community has kind of just turned into capitalism gone too far. And I'm not gonna rant about capitalism here. It's for another day or time, platform. But it really has changed the entire platform. So what can we do? So if you're looking to stay in a city, I just urge you to think about all of that and to take that into consideration. Especially if it's a short-term stay. Instead, you can look at locally owned actual B&Bs, bed and breakfasts, and boutique hotels. You can also use some alternative websites. There's Homestay, which is still connecting travelers with locals. Airbnb is a co-op that works with local communities against mass tourism. So you stay with locals, and as part of the commission, every site has commission fees, so you're just paying it. Whether you know it or not, it's fixed into the price. But their commission fee is part of that goes to projects and communities that you can choose. EcoB&B supports local communities and has a really strong focus on sustainability. And for a very large reach with a ton of properties, you can always use booking.com, and there's a travel sustainable property filter that you can use that will tell you if there's sustainable property and doing sustainable things. I know it's like a little bit different than local, but a lot of the times the two like marry together, and you can at least narrow down your search. You can also work with your favorite friendly old travel agent who can help coordinate everything for you. Just make sure to be really specific and that you're really looking for something that gives back to the community, and that is really important to you in your accommodation and in all of the aspects of your travel. If you work with Brio, that is something that is built into the service. I only work with partners that check those boxes. So when we work together to customize your trip, you're gonna automatically know that comes with it. It is really important to me to leave a place better than I found it, to connect with the community and with the people in any way. It doesn't have to be staying with a family. It can be taking a cooking class or doing whatever, finding some sort of activity. It doesn't have to be through the accommodation. That is just one option. But either way, I think it's really important to think about every single aspect of your trip to make sure that we leave places better than we found them, and to be able to walk away having had a really cool experience where you feel more connected to the world that you live in. I know it's tough because, especially for me, this is a pretty big adjustment. Your choices matter and you matter, and every little bit that we do counts. The goal here is never to be perfect. We're never gonna be perfect, and that's okay. The important thing is to just stop and think and reflect and be intentional about the choices you make, especially when you are a visitor in somebody else's home. And I don't mean home as in their literal house. I mean home as in their community, in their city, in their country, in their culture. I want to treat it with respect. And yeah, I would love to know what you think. Do you still use Airbnb? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Have you used any of the Airbnb alternatives before? Would love to know what you thought. So if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I put out videos on the 1st and the 15th of every month. I've got all the links mentioned in the video down in the description below. And if you wanna head over to Instagram and hang out, then you can find me at BrioTravel_. And as always, happy travels. Bye.